Hello, I'm Anna.
And I'm Marcos. Welcome to another episode.
Marcos, do you have children?
Yes, I do. A 6-year-old girl.
Then you'll understand the gravity of the story we're going to tell today, because it's about that kind of fear every parent carries deep in their heart.
The fear that something might happen to your child when you're not looking.
Exactly. It's good to have you here on Shadowline, everyone. Today, we're going to revisit a story that, when it happened, stopped the United Kingdom. A story of senseless loss that makes us question the fragility of life.
This case is going to get to you and will question everything you think about justice and safety.
So, if you want to dive into the investigation with us and discover the truth, join the Shadowline community now. Click subscribe and hit the bell.
And the case we're going to detail today is that of Emily Grace Jones. And Anna, what makes it especially painful isn't just the facts, but the date. March 22nd, 2020.
Yes, 2020. At the height of our global uncertainty with the pandemic. And ironically, it was Mother's Day in the UK. People were seeking the outdoors, a sense of normality.
Exactly, and that's what makes the setting so idyllic and then so terrifying. We're in Queen's Park, Bolton, Greater Manchester. A family park, full of life.
Emily, just 7 years old, was there with her father, Mark Jones. I picture the scene, the sun peeking out, the noise of scooters, the carefree nature of the children. Emily was on her scooter, a little glimpse of joy. Her father was encouraging her to go faster. In the distance, she spotted her mother running through the park. "Daddy, Daddy, I want to go see Mummy," she said, excitedly. Her father waved. She set off, happy, toward her mother.
Her father was only a few feet away. Everything was normal until it wasn't. Sitting on a nearby bench, a woman with her hood up was watching everything. In her hands, a newly purchased knife. Anna, this gives me chills. Imagine being there thinking you're in a safe place with other families around.
It's every parent's nightmare, Marcos. In less than 10 seconds, that ordinary afternoon would turn into a family's worst nightmare. And into one of the most shocking crimes in recent English history. Before we continue, we need to know Emily. She can't just be a victim, you know? She was a person, a child full of life, with light hair and a contagious smile. Due to the sensitive and brutal nature of this case and the content policies of YouTube, we are adapting the narrative to focus on the investigation and the impact of the crime, avoiding the graphic description of the violence. We appreciate your understanding.
Yes, Anna, it's fundamental to humanize the story. We will gather the facts, understand the impact, and honor little Emily's memory. Get ready, because today's conversation will be profound and revolting.
To understand the shock, we have to go back to that March 22, 2020. Emily Grace Jones was born on January 18, 2013, in Bolton. The only child of Mark Jones, a credit manager, and Sarah Barnes, a lawyer. She was always full of joy and love, her father would later say. She was a fearless, adventurous girl. She loved being outdoors, hiking, climbing, swimming, horse riding.
Teachers described Emily as creative and intelligent. She loved drawing and writing stories, always finishing her school tasks even before her classmates had finished writing the date in their notebooks. She was popular, energetic, full of life. And look, even though her parents were no longer together as a couple, they maintained a harmonious relationship. They were completely committed to co-parenting their daughter.
That's important to highlight, isn't it? Because it shows that Emily lived in a loving environment, even with separated parents.
Yes, Sundays were usually Emily's day with her father, and that's exactly what they did on that March 22nd. On that Mother's Day morning, Emily had prepared a special card for Sarah. Around 2:15 p.m., she and Mark were at Queen's Park.
The girl was doing loops on her scooter while her father encouraged her, laughing. It was a scene of pure normality. In the distance, Emily spotted Sarah running through the park.
with her headphones on, her mother couldn't hear her daughter calling. "Daddy, I want to go see Mummy," Emily said, excited. Mark agreed. The girl sped off on her scooter.
And here begins the horror, Anna. Because nearby, sitting on a bench, was 30-year-old Eltiona Skarner. She did not know Emily. She did not know that family. A complete stranger. But that morning, she had left home with a clear purpose. At 1 p.m., Eltiona went to Bolton City Center. She entered a discount store and bought a pack of 3 handmade knives.
Wait, so she left home already with the intention of doing this?
It seems so. After buying the knives, she walked to Queen's Park, sat down on a bench, legs crossed, hood up, and waited. A witness who was in the park that day noticed the woman sitting on the ground next to the bench. She seemed agitated, with a vacant stare.
And he didn't do anything?
He watched her for about 4 minutes. Since she didn't do anything but sit there, he left. It's that thing. We see someone strange, but we don't want to judge, we don't want to seem paranoid, and then something happens. When Emily zoomed past on her scooter, Eltiona got up. Without a word, without any hesitation, she grabbed the girl and committed a sudden and fatal attack.
Emily fell to the ground.
Mark, who was watching from a distance, initially thought his daughter had fallen off the scooter. He saw the woman next to her and thought she was helping. But then he started hearing screams. A woman stabbed her. She stabbed the girl. People were running. The hooded woman, still holding the knife, began walking calmly away from the scene.
Mark ran desperately to Emily. The scene he found was devastating. His daughter was on the ground, seriously injured, struggling to breathe. "Stay with me, Emily. Stay with me. Don't leave me."
Sarah, still in the park unaware of what had happened, received the phone call that would change her life forever.
Among the parkgoers that day was Tony Conti, who was there with his wife and young daughter in his arms. He handed the baby to his wife and ran after the hooded woman who was trying to flee. He didn't know exactly what she had done. He didn't know if she was still armed. But he ran anyway. That's an act of courage, Anna, you see?
Absolutely.
Tony caught up to Eltiona and tackled her to the ground. He sat on her to prevent her escape and immediately called 999, the British emergency number. "There's an injured child in Queen's Park in Bolton," he informed the operator while holding the woman down. His wife screamed at him that the woman was armed with a knife. Even so, Tony did not let go.
And during the minutes he held her, Eltiona was saying disconnected, bizarre phrases. "I don't need injections anymore. He killed my family. He's killing me." "You're not well," Tony tried to calm her. "The police will help you."
Tony remained calm and held Eltiona until the police arrived. When officers reached the scene, they quickly handcuffed her. "Hands behind your back. Your bag, put it on the ground." Inside Eltiona's bag, the police found her ID card, her mother's ID card, a water bottle, and the knife. "At this moment, you are under arrest on suspicion of attempted murder," the official declared. When questioned if there was anything in the bag that could harm them, she calmly replied, "No, just my ID, my mother's ID, a knife, a little water, and juice." One detail caught the officer's attention. There was a string wrapped around Eltiona's toes. When questioned, she explained it was to help her deal with her emotions. Doctors would later interpret this as a sign of acute psychosis.
While all this was happening, in the park, paramedics were arriving next to Emily. A passing nurse also rushed over to help. Emily was in her father's arms, seriously injured. Her state was critical. She was unconscious and going into cardiac arrest. Tony's wife handed Mark their baby's muslin cloth to try and assist with the injury. Paramedics immediately began CPR. The air ambulance was called. They did everything. The helicopter landed at Salford Royal Hospital at 3:27 p.m. Doctors launched a large-scale emergency response. Emily was placed on a ventilator, received blood transfusions, and the medical team made repeated attempts to resuscitate her.
Emily was placed on a ventilator, received blood transfusions, and the medical team made repeated attempts to resuscitate her. But despite all the efforts, the emergency procedures, the speed with which everything was done, Emily remained in cardiac arrest. At 3:56 p.m., just 29 minutes after arriving at the hospital, doctors were forced to make the most difficult decision. Emily Grace Jones, 7, was pronounced dead.
The autopsy would later confirm the cause, a fatal and deliberate injury. The case, already horrifying, was now officially a homicide investigation. And then comes the question everyone asks: who was this woman? Why did she do this? Let's talk about Eltiona Skarner. And look, her story is marked by trauma from a very young age, Marcos.
That's right, Anna. Eltiona Skarner was born on February 24, 1990 in Albania. In 2012, her father incurred significant debts, and look what he did, Anna. To settle the debts, he forced his daughter to marry the man he owed money to.
He literally sold his daughter to pay a debt?
That's exactly right. Eltiona was sent to Kuwait against her will. A year later, in September 2013, she managed to escape and returned to Albania.
But her stay there was brief. Her sister, Clora, who lived in Germany, paid for Eltiona to be taken to England.
In August 2014, Eltiona illegally crossed Italy and France hidden in a lorry, arriving in the UK on the 13th. She applied for asylum, falsely claiming to be a victim of human trafficking.
The application was initially denied in June 2018, but following an appeal, it was overturned. Eltiona was granted permission to stay in the country until November 2024.
But here's the crucial point, Anna. What the British authorities did not know, or failed to foresee, was that Eltiona already had serious mental health issues long before arriving in England. In 2015, Eltiona was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. She was referred for cognitive behavioral therapy, but never attended the sessions. First red flag. Her case was closed, and then things started to get worse. In July 2015, Eltiona had a delusional episode. She believed her neighbors were conspiring to kill her using electricity. She grabbed a knife, convinced an attack was imminent. Note, Anna, she was already demonstrating violent behavior with a knife, even then.
Exactly. Her sister Clora called the police. Eltiona was compulsorily detained under the Mental Health Act at Royal Bolton Hospital. There, doctors diagnosed her with symptoms resembling paranoid schizophrenia. She refused oral medication. The medical team was forced to administer antipsychotics via injection. Sometime later, Eltiona was released. Doctors believed her paranoid thoughts had diminished. And here begins a series of system failures, Marcos. As part of her care plan, she was supposed to receive weekly visits from mental health professionals. But Eltiona kept complaining about the side effects of the medication. In November 2015, the medication was completely suspended.
Suspended? Completely?
Completely. And it didn't take long for her condition to worsen again. In December 2015, Eltiona reported to doctors that she was hearing voices daily. And look at this complicated situation. Her own mother disagreed with the medication prescription, preferring a spiritual cure over medical treatment.
Which is a serious problem, right, Anna? Because the person is not in a condition to make these decisions alone.
In 2017, Eltiona refused entry to her care coordinator at her home. She missed a scheduled appointment. Clora, alarmed by signs of a relapse, scheduled a home visit for February 13th.
But before that visit could happen, something deeply disturbing occurred. Eltiona's mother came to visit and discovered her daughter had self-harmed. Eltiona took her mother upstairs and locked the door with a chain. Then she calmly announced, "As soon as I kill you, everything will be fine." She attacked her own mother with an iron and seriously injured her with a bladed weapon. The violence only stopped when a friend intervened. Eltiona was arrested again and detained under the Mental Health Act. And yet, despite this alarming history, 3 years later, Eltiona Skarner was free and without adequate supervision.
In the months leading up to Emily's murder, there were more warning signs. On one occasion, Eltiona left the hospital without permission. At 5 a.m., she appeared on a friend's doorstep demanding to speak to their 13-year-old daughter. She was carrying a knife she had taken from a restaurant. When asked about her shaved head, Eltiona coldly commented that she had cut her own hair instead of cutting other people's heads. She was taken back to the hospital and, surprisingly, deemed fit for release on May 4, 2017.
For a while, it seemed she had stabilized, but in March 2018, Eltiona reported that she was having hallucinations again. She asked to resume the antipsychotic injections. Her last recorded contact with mental health services occurred on March 11, 2020, just 11 days before she killed Emily. The visit was so uneventful that the healthcare professional, Victoria Fagan, didn't even make notes. It can be said that it was the tranquility that led to this brutal crime, the failure of the mental health system, and the false sense of security that cost little Emily her life.
And it is precisely this sense of failure that may be the greatest pain for the family, Marcos. Not just the loss, but the idea that the system could have intervened.
And what makes it even more revolting, Anna, is the report from that last interaction. The healthcare professional described Eltiona as a level-headed, clean, and well-cared-for person. Eltiona even mentioned plans to start university studies in September to become a stylist.
You mean 11 days before the murder, she was planning her future, projecting an image of total normalcy to the healthcare professional? And did the nurse even ask about the medication?
She did, and Eltiona said yes. It was a lie. When the police searched the apartment after the crime, they found almost a month's worth of antipsychotic medication intact.
Marcos, this detail brings a new layer of mystery to this tragedy. If this story is making you think,
Then pause for a second. If you haven't already, click like and subscribe to our channel. It's your way of telling us that we should continue to investigate these mysteries and bring them here to you.
doctors would later testify that a sudden discontinuation of this type of medication can lead to a rapid and dangerous mental decline in a matter of days. Clara, her sister, would later confirm that in the weeks leading up to the attack, Eltiona had been hearing voices, exhibiting violent behavior, and threatening family members. Sometimes she would stand outside the house screaming while holding a knife. Living with her was like living in a horror movie, Clara would say. And yet, no one intervened in time.
Eltiona Spick-Turner was formally charged with homicide and possession of a bladed article. At the preliminary hearing, she pleaded not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility due to her mental health. The prosecution initially rejected this plea. They wanted a jury to decide whether her actions were the result of mental illness or if the murder had been premeditated.
At the trial, the prosecution presented disturbing evidence. Jonathan Pettit, a psychiatric nurse at Rampton Hospital where Eltiona was detained, testified that she confessed something shocking to him. "I killed someone. It was premeditated. I waited in the park, chose my victim, did what I did, and tried to run away."
3 months after the crime, when questioned about how she felt about Emily's murder, Eltiona allegedly replied, "What do you want me to do? Cry all the time? It's been 3 months."
In another incident at the hospital, she was watching a children's show on TV when a child resembling Emily appeared on the screen. Eltiona laughed hysterically. The prosecution argued that Eltiona was using her mental illness as a convenient excuse for the crime, but psychiatric experts were divided.
Dr. John Crosby, a consultant psychiatrist, testified that Eltiona had paranoid schizophrenia and was likely experiencing a psychotic episode during the attack. He insisted there was no identifiable motive for why Emily was chosen. It was a random and rare attack. Marcos Jones gave a devastating statement to the court. Emily was a vulnerable child, full of innocence. She was just starting her journey in life, and her future was cut short. Our future has also been taken from us. How can we enjoy life when the best part of it is gone?
Finally, after weighing all the evidence and psychiatric evaluations, the prosecution concluded there was no longer a realistic chance of securing a murder conviction. The murder charge was formally withdrawn. The jury was instructed to return a verdict of not guilty of murder, and Eltiona Skarner was officially convicted of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility.
On the day of sentencing, it was announced that Eltiona would be detained for the rest of her life.
She would begin her sentence at Rampton Maximum Security Hospital. If her clinical condition fully stabilized, she would be transferred to prison. Her minimum term was set at 8 years. But days later, a calculation error was corrected. The minimum term was increased to 10 years and 8 months. The judge made it clear. The devastating effects of what you did will remain forever in the memories of Emily's parents. Nothing I do or say can bring Emily back or offer any real comfort in their immense grief. He added, if you are never considered fit for release, you will remain in the hospital or prison for the rest of your life.
For Mark, no number of years would be enough. He declared, I will continue fighting tooth and nail to keep her in there for the rest of her life. Whether it's 10 or 20 years, it's not enough. She is a danger to the public. She would do this again.
When Eltiona tried to appeal the sentence, the appeal was denied. Judge Lady Justice McCall declared that there was sufficient evidence to conclude that Eltiona knew what she did was wrong and tried to escape detention and flee the scene of the crime.
In the inquest into Emily's death, Coroner Alan Walsh declared, in my 20 years as a coroner, this is one of the most tragic deaths I have ever dealt with. The loss of a beautiful, innocent, vivacious, and intelligent little girl in these circumstances is an unimaginable tragedy.
The NHS conducted an internal review and concluded that there were no indicators that could have predicted the attack. They stated that Eltiona's behavior and mental state did not show clear signs of relapse. Mark Jones disagreed vehemently. It's complete nonsense. They are just trying to abdicate all responsibility. She was their responsibility.
Coroner Timothy Brennan drafted a report expressing deep concerns about workload, staff morale, understaffing, and the inability to ensure continuity of care. He said he sensed a crisis in the mental health sector.
Following Emily's death, her school raised over £11,000 to create a memorial garden. Her classmates helped design it, a peaceful space reflecting Emily's love for nature.
Sarah, Emily's mother, launched a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for the Bolton Lads and Girls Club. The campaign raised almost £30,000, providing opportunities for children in the area.
Mark joined the charity 100 Families, which supports relatives of people killed by someone with mental illness. His goal, to change the way psychiatric patients are managed. Someone asked me, what are you trying to achieve with all this? It won't bring Emily back. It won't. But I don't want another family to have to go through what we did. I don't want Emily's death to have been in vain.
Mark and Sarah said, Emily was the beat in our hearts, the lightness in our steps, and the reason we got up every day.
Eltiona Skarner remains detained at Rampton Hospital, where she continues to receive mental health treatment.
Emily Jones was 7 years old. Her life was full of joy, promise, and possibility. On a Sunday that should have been full of love and celebration, her life was cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. The question that remains is, could this have been prevented? And how far does responsibility go when mental illness meets violence? Thank you for joining us on this case today. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate and tell you about in the next episode.
And if you value the work of analysis and investigation we do here at Shadowline, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing the truth to light. Remember, we can't always change history, but we can ensure the memory of the victims is not forgotten. Until the next episode.
See you soon.